Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Daniel Umstead, host of the RNG radio show. I got a longtime dear friend of mine who came on the RNG radio show to talk about what she's currently doing. But before we get into that, I got to break down the bio. Got to break down the bio. So she is a seasoned HR executive, career coach, and business owner committed to equipping individuals accomplish their economic empowerment goals. She is founder of GPS Career and Business Strategy. What the firm does is help business owners and individuals transform their organization and careers via HR tools and strategies. She graduated from City University of New York's Baruch College for a bachelor's degree and obtained a master's degree from Chestnut Hill College in Philadelphia. She holds senior certifications from the Society of Human Resources Management and the Human Resources Certification Institute, and is certified to administer the Myers-Briggs personality and career direct assessment tools. She has been employed with the city of Philadelphia for the past 40 years in progressively responsible leadership roles. She currently serves as the Deputy Director for HR for the city of Philadelphia's Department of Planning and Development. She also partners with her husband in providing customized real estate services as licensed realtors, investors, mortgage professionals, and educators to help others build their wealth goals via GPS real estate solutions. They have connected clients to millions of dollars in resources in the form of education, real estate, income, and connections, as well as strategies. She is a first-generation New Yorker, currently residing in the northwest section of Philadelphia. And in her free time, she enjoys spending time with her husband, two sons, and mother. Ladies and gentlemen, I have with me today on the RNG radio show, Karla Hill. Karla, thank you so much for joining. I'm glad we were able to get connected, of course, once again here. And I'm ready to, really just brag about what amazing things you're currently doing right now. So thank you again so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So glad to connect with you. We have so much in common. So I'm just really happy to be here, Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So folks should know I'm about 4 to 5 years in the real estate game here. Karla has pretty much been with me when I was making that transition into becoming a realtor. So very, very great longtime friend. So great things are coming. But today we are talking about Karla. So tell me, Karla, why did you even choose your respective career? HR is not fun, as both of us are in there right now, and the humans that we deal with seems to us be providing more resources than anything, rather than just trying to have a human connection with them. So if you can tell us why you chose your respective career.
I'm so committed to career exposure and just, you mentioned that I grew up in New York and I'm a daughter of an immigrant also. My mother is from Costa Rica and she's a retired registered nurse. And a lot of times when you have limited exposure to different careers, you just kind of stumble around. So I think in eighth grade, I said I wanted to be a doctor because I knew I wanted to be successful, whatever that is. But God, in his infinite wisdom, had me exposed to other people. We had a family friend that, when I was in college, was the human resources manager for the New York City Public Library. So during my undergrad, I hung out with her, right? And I'm telling you, Daniel, the thing is, I love people, right? And it would have been, the standard way to go in the medical field, be a nurse, like my sister's a nurse, my mother was a nurse, but human resources was a way to help people, right? But I'm not clinical. That was not my passion in terms of the medical field, right? So
Yeah.
I'm just, again, extremely just lucky to have that exposure. I'm a career management geek, meaning I love to see people operate in their gifts and talents. I know that there's 33,000 different occupational paths. If you ask a 10-year-old in Philadelphia, 10-year-old in Jamaica, 10-year-old in New York, what do you want to be? They're going to name what they've seen, right? But if you haven't seen it, then how do you know to really be it? So that's a long way to say having exposure. So I ended up majoring in human resources as a result of my connections with the family friend. And human resources is such a broad field. and it really crosses different organizations. You can do it in government, you can do it in the private sector, you can do it in the nonprofit sector. If you are more math focused, you could be on the benefits or the payroll side. If you're more people focused, you can be on the recruitment or training side. If you're more compliance focused, you can be on labor relations. So it's such, most people that come to me that I mentor and all, they're like, oh, I love people, but it's so layered, right? So it just really depends. So that's how I ended up. And again, if anyone that follows Myers-Briggs, I'm an INTP, and which means is I'm a very big picture person. I could not imagine myself working any place for 35 years, but the fact is the city of Philadelphia has been the number one, number two employer between University of Penn and the city of Philadelphia. So I've had so many different roles that there's not an occupation you could name in the city, in government, that doesn't exist, meaning that we have pharmacists, we have PR people, and I've been the HR manager for the Department of Public Health, for fleet management, worked in a central agency. So I've had exposure to so many different cultures. Even though we're 52 departments, each
Wow.
department has its own culture. So it's been able to feed my need for that diversity of experiences and promotional opportunities. So that's why human resources, and I've had favorite functions in human resources, but the field itself has been really, really satisfying.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. And, I've been doing just the staff and recruiting on my end for the past 15 plus years now. She's from old. But the joy I have, as you mentioned, is that promotion, them calling you back and saying, like, Dan, I was able to get the job, thanks so much, for your tips and wisdom. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. I told you what you needed to do to get the job, but you actually followed. And it's like, listen, we have a laundry list of folks that we provide advice to that don't listen, and they're like, I don't know what happened. And it's like, did you do what I said? Well, I was a little bit late to the interview. Well, that might have something to do with it, something to do with it. So let's talk about GPS career and business strategies for a moment. What got you in there? And typically, because I know you had mentioned as far as, getting individuals connected, education, real estate, as well as, strategies and other connections. But can you dive a little bit more as to far as, typically what you provide through there?
Oh, no, thank you for that question. So it's been a journey, right? Just in terms of finding the purpose. I'm big picture, but now through assessment tools, I've really discovered what I believe what my purpose is. It's the economic empowerment of others through career planning, business development, and asset building. And really what that means to me is I think using your personality, your interests, your skills, and your values to live a life by design in terms of occupationally, right? So I take those 34 years of experiences to different occupations, seeing people flow in their gifts, see people fail by not discovering those gifts, and help guide them, right? So that first step is that assessment, right? I love, one of my favorite tools is that career direct assessment tool for individuals, where it breaks down your personality, your interests, your skills, and your values into a 24-page, very detailed report. I compare it, it's ironic, right? I said I want to be a doctor, and I compare, let's say you go to a doctor and you come into the office, oh, Daniel, glad to see you. Here's your prescription. The doctor didn't take any labs. The doctor didn't ask you your symptoms. The doctor didn't ask you your family history. So that is the first step in terms of what GPS does, assessing where you are. And one of the reasons I call the GPS, my husband helped me come up with that name, is when you turn on a GPS device, it doesn't first tell you where to go. It's assessing where you are. Yeah, I'm sure you've been in situations where you turn on the GPS and they're like, oh, we can't find, because you're like in a desert somewhere.
Right.
But it's the same thing.
God
If
help
you
me.
don't, yeah, if you don't have data about yourself. So my first step is getting data about you. And then I can give you informed guidance on where to go next. right? So that's really the foundation of GPS, career and business strategy. That's the starting point. And it's the same thing with businesses, right? A lot of times you've seen that people hear human resources, and I have to tell you, being the daughter of an immigrant and my dad was an entrepreneur, my parents met in New York. So I have both sides, right? I'm entrepreneurial. I've been married for the past 34 years to a person that is also entrepreneurial. So having that as my dad, having my mom, those influences have formed. I really believe people should do both to a certain degree, or at least have the mindset of what skills are you bringing to the marketplace to support you and your family. Employers, that's not employers' mission. Their mission is not to make sure you stay employed. That is your that is your job, right? So doing that for individuals, but for business owners, the ones that realize that HR strategies can be a strategic advantage, those are the ones that I'm interested in helping, right? Or that I believe I can help. If you view human resources, if you're a business owner, as just okay, processing, payroll, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's important because systems are part of business. But if you really want to take your business to the next level, I'm the person, GPS can help you come up with those value added strategies to move the needle, so to speak. So those are the two major functional areas that I serve in.
Beautiful, beautiful. Really appreciate that. And then, of course, if anybody wants to find further information about it, where can they either find you on social media, or is there a website that folks can go to for GPS?
Yes. So karlahill.net with a K is the best way, is the fastest way. I also have GPS career and business strategies.com, and on all social media under Karla Hill with a K. You can find me in terms of Facebook, LinkedIn, as well as Instagram.
Great, great. Thanks so much. And one thing I want to point out that folks may have missed is the support. Back to your question of, hey, what does a 10-year-old want to be? Jamaica, New York, or even all the way out in Seattle, Washington. Of course, they're going to have different responses. The joy we have today, Google, thankfully for the internet, we are living in a digital age, where folks can not only see what they potentially want to become, but also can see that salary range as well too. So please be mindful, folks, no matter what career level that you're in right now or where you're trying to get to, by all means still look at the numbers, so that way you can support your family, because somebody may want to be a doctor but don't realize the cost into becoming a doctor, and they just see the big number at the end of the tunnel. The other question I wanted to ask you, as far as with human resources, because we are living in growing times, never would I have thought, even now, the resources that we have today, it's 2024 now. Where do you see human resources, growing to in the next 5, even 10 years?
Excellent question. So I think it's important, just like I talked about, there's different functional areas within human resources in terms of the system side, right? Benefits, payroll. I think technology adds to that, right? Where it makes it more efficient. I think where it's going to really, the growth is going to be strategy. I mean, even with AI, in terms of using AI as a tool, because it does add efficiency, it adds structure, but this it still requires that we vet. Human beings have created AI and technology. So for it to be driven, it's going to take that human being, that human resources professional, and the strategy. That's going to be in terms of identifying talent and coming up with different the innovation is going to happen with people, with our minds, what we bring to the table, right? But people have to be able to say, hey, there is potential there. Yes, I think if your focus is just on the processing of it, I think it will be outplaced, right? Because technology is going to be faster, right? But we are charged with outpacing it, right? So we have to leave room though for that thought. I mean, there's nothing better than the human mind. So if we if we feed that, if we go and find the solutions to the problems, there's lots of problems. As long as there's problems, there's going to be businesses and there's going to be opportunities. So for us, we have to look for what are those opportunities and come up with strategies and use those tools, right? I don't think there's ever going to be an opportunity for, oh, it's definitely, we're never going to need human beings. We're going to need human beings, right? In terms of whether it's space, whether it's, the opportunities are still endless for innovation and for individuals to go to that next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, or I shouldn't say a lot of people, but a few people that I've come across are saying, technology is taking over people's jobs, or you see the articles out here saying that. And it's really not so much that, it's really just learning it, learning AI. Listen, I, for one, is definitely saying like, oh no, Chat GPT is not beneficial. It's not going to be useful. It's taking away things. And it's actually been a great resource, So for those who love to Google, try out Chat GPT, and it's free. It's free. There is a paid version, but it is free. And it's helped me in my career. It was actually a tool that I was actually able to bring to my current company when we were going through a few projects. So don't look at technology or AI as a bad thing, but actually look at it as a good thing and seeing how it can be beneficial for, whether you're at a company, whether for yourself and career growth, it is going to be a great tool. Um, Motivational. I always love to ask these things. What keeps you going, Karla? Because we have our good days, we have our bad days, we have our ugly days. But what keeps you up? As far as starting your day brand new and continuously moving forward.
I would say a couple of, it's a few things, right? Knowing one of my assessments is I'm a relator executive on the Drive system, which means my why is to add value to people, but how I do it is accomplishing goals. That's my fuel, right? So in terms of faith, I would say my faith keeps me going each day, but it's also surrounding myself, accountability groups. I have to say, in the past 2.5 years, I've released 67 pounds. And that's because of a community and a programming. And we're a collection of our habits, right? Accountability groups for me keep me really focused, and that habit stacking, the same things every day, right? Whether it's making the telephone calls, whether it's eating the right foods, um, just in terms of what I've been calling them now is success habits, right? There's certain things that I do that I want to become part of my subconscious where I'm not even thinking about it, right? Whether it's those calls, practicing my Spanish, looking for properties, connecting with people, making sure I follow up, and being around people that it's, and during Black History Month, there's a term, lift while we climb, right? And it was actually pen, and what that means is, yes, I'm an ambitious person. I'm a person that wants to maximize my potential, but I'm also a person that mentors a lot of people and wants to lift as I climb. And that quote is really coming from Harriet Tubman, Ida B. Wells. Is a group of Black women in the late 1800s that came up with that under their National Association of Colored Women, right? So, and that's part of my value system that I want to bring people along, and people have been bringing me along also. I have people that I mentor, a lot of people, but I'm also being mentored and going to that next level. And the mentors that mentor me, they make me uncomfortable, right? They're like, what are you doing this, what are you doing? And it's uncomfortable, right? So it's literally being comfortable with being uncomfortable every
Oh,
day,
wow.
surround and being very intentional of who you're surrounding yourself with, right? So you have colleagues, you have people that you're supporting and bringing along, and no matter what your age, you're gonna have people that hopefully bring you along, but you have to be humble enough to be able to accept that and feel uncomfortable.
Yes, yes, I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to bring up a couple of points that you had brought up, starting with the, being comfortable. A lot of folks, get set in their ways and have aspirations to do greater, bigger, and brighter things. But because they want to stay in their bubble, they're unable to break out of that. So find ways, ladies and gentlemen, first gem of the day, find ways to get yourself being comfortable, so that way you can progress and, move forward. The other thing is the habit stacking. I read Atomic Habits. If you haven't checked it out already, for those folks who don't mind doing audiobooks, it's free on YouTube. You can pretty much just type in Atomic Habits and just have it play for you. But the big thing is the habit stacking. You need to do the same thing over every single day. If you're a realtor, guess what you need to be doing every single day? Checking out properties, seeing what the current market trends are. If you're a teacher, hey, I'm following up on the current curriculum. What's going to be best for my students? So that habit stacking goes a long way. And even, with the health, it's like, hey, what am I putting into my diet daily? Not because it looks good or because it's like, oh, I need to work on my diet. I'm gonna have a broccoli pop today. No, you need to have a broccoli pop every single day, and then you're gonna start seeing the results. And it goes with the compounding effect. You do that little 1 to 2% daily, you're gonna receive results in the long run. And shout out, you mentioned 67 pounds that you dropped.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
that I
that's
lose. Thank
I
you.
think it's a hand clap right there. So you just being a proof of that, greatly appreciated. Um, what would you tell someone to encourage them to optimize their career? A lot of folks, especially the ones who've been like 15 years in the same position, and it might be a mid-level role or even a low-level role. What advice would you give to somebody who is pretty much stagnant, but they're looking to take it to the next level?
I would say it still starts from the beginning. I still think there needs to be an assessment of who you are, right? Of, again, being a daughter of an immigrant, what happens a lot of times, oh, immigrants, the stereotype is that you have an excellent work ethic. What I want is the person with work ethic and also flowing in their gifts, right? Because most professionals can do an okay job in most things. Quite honestly, I've seen it, right? Talented people. But I really want people, and I want to be in the space where you're exceptional. What are the things that top 10% that you can do better than anybody else, and being in that space? Because the organization will win and you will win. I've seen that. I've seen when people are flowing in their personality, interests, skills, and values. But if you don't know what that is, you're not going to get that opportunity. So I think, there's employers that offer assessment tools. Daniel, you told me, in terms of your employer, you brought that tool. So take advantage of it. With two sons that one is going to be graduating college next year, the other one's graduated. And again, being that geek, when we were visiting colleges, I would go to the career development office just to check it out. No one's ever in there, right? So if you're,
Ever, ever.
but they have all these tools to find out about you, right? So if you have those tools, make sure you use them. People know more about their phones and their cars than themselves, and we are our most valuable asset, right? So
Yeah.
that's the starting point. And once you know that, then you can design what your next steps are, right? And it's going to take some courage. It's not going to be comfortable because you're in that spot, but at least you'll have some data points to say, this is what I want to do, and this is why, right? So again, I think if your employer doesn't offer it, there's, I'm a career planning professional. You can go to karlahill.net. I can offer that service as well, right? I know Daniel does resume prep. So when you're ready to do that as well. But you got to be doing, action is the magic word and the magic verb, right? What action are you going to take to move the needle, to move you to the next step? You can keep thinking it, but then you have to make some sort of step. So first step is assess who you are, coming up with a plan, execute the plan, and putting individuals in place to help you move that needle.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the key thing is, with the digital age that we're living in, you need to talk to a human, ladies and gentlemen. My job does offer the assessment, but once the assessment is completed, we talk to our employees about it. Carla Hill has the same thing. She has an assessment, but she talks to the folks about it. So, yes, there's probably an app for a skills careers assessment. There's probably some pop quiz online that you answer 14 questions. And it's like, oh, I I thought about becoming an engineer based upon my results. I must be an engineer. Doesn't work that way. You need to still have that human connection. And this is where, we're still going to be beating AI technology, no matter what type of responses that you put in or however long you spend on assessment, you still need to talk to somebody about your results, because that is where your flower will bloom. That is where that fruition will come to pass. And it'll be clear as far as like, okay, this is why, I'm looking at this career path, or this is why, I have a tendency to want to work with others or have that people connection. So make sure, when you are ready to optimize that career, that you are talking to somebody about it. You mentioned that you are a contributor to a book. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project?
Oh, yes, thank you. So it launched in December. It's called Cinderella Monologues, and it's a compilation. So I've contributed a chapter to that book based on the theme is Cinderella, right? It's 14 women that have contributed to the book. For me, what came up in Cinderella is the the attitude that Cinderella had as she was being really taken advantage of, right, by her stepmother and her stepsisters. But she had the right attitude as she awaited that opportunity, right? And we have to, my recommendation is that we do the same thing, right? Is that we keep ourselves in check in terms of the discipline as we await, but we need to know what we're moving towards, right? And again, it goes back to that personality, interests, skills, and values. If you're moving towards something, it allows you to take that next step. But you're going to be miserable if you don't have a vision, if you don't know what you're supposed to do, right? I know, and I go through my story. Even growing up in New York, my first job at 14 was working as a file clerk on the Wall Street area. And I have to tell you, there was a manager. I went to go get a file, and one of the managers, it was the wrong file, and she yelled and screamed at me. Now at 14, right? And I think that experience really has formed me treating people with dignity and respect, right? No, I've terminated a lot of people, I've laid people, but it's always they're humans first, right? So it's like even what we view as negative experiences, and I have to quite honestly, I'm more of an optimist, so I muted those feelings towards that, and the book helped me come up with those that to process that. And I'm blessed enough to still have my mother around. She's like, I remember that day. And I came home, it was so taking public transportation when at 14 years old in New York. So I didn't, I'm more big picture, so I didn't think of all the details, but it allows you to reflect all those experiences means something, right? Working in the different departments in the city and supporting and the entrepreneurial efforts, all those are part of my story. All things work for the good for those who are called, right? So it's a lot of times it's not going to be mountaintop to mountaintop experiences, right? So similar to Cinderella. So the book can be found on carlahill.info, right? In terms of ordering the book. But it's just part of my story, and it's also helpfully contributing to the economic empowerment of others, right? But because the attitude really does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you pointed something out I'm gonna have to stop you on. You said mountaintop to mountaintop. But in order for us to get from one mountain to the next, we gotta go down and then we gotta climb
Mm.
back up.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
to your point, yes, you can achieve from mountaintop to mountaintop because your success is part of the journey as well. Had you taken that experience, from being 14 and being a file clerk and said like, oh, if this is how I'm supposed to be treating people, or if this is how the world's supposed to be treating people, I'm going to continue that on. But you actually took that and said like, okay, this is what I'm not going to do. A lot of folks say that I'll even use myself as an example, where it's like, oh, well, like you grew up without a father, so you're probably not going to be that great of a father. It's like, no, I'm actually even more better of a father because I'm
Wow.
learning what not to do compared to what I should be doing. So thank you so much, Karla. As we're wrapping up, wanted to know, is there a quote that you love to say or repeat that keeps you motivated and going as well?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So it's actually by, I don't know if Bob Snyder is the first person that said it. He's a CEO of a firm. And it's your passion is your life's purpose seeking outward expression, right? Again, your passion is your life's purpose seeking outward expression. And how I live that, just as I talked about, right? I know part of my passion is seeing people have options, and it's in that economic empowerment realm, right? Whether it's through career planning, business development, or asset building. Because I don't like when people are stuck, right? So what I do is help provide people with those. If I was a billionaire, Daniel, I would still be doing the same thing in terms
Mhm.
of interacting with people. And I love the way you said you need to have feedback from a human being. If we stay in our heads and just, oh, I'm just going to go online and look at, and then you'll be just reaffirming information that you already know. But when someone disrupts it, right, that's when the power comes, right, in terms of that interaction with someone. If you look at, my dad was a big sports fan, so I'm not into the spectator sports as much, but growing up, I have all the analogies. And so it becomes the top people, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. One of the reasons that he was flying is because he wanted to make sure he maximizes time. And they have coaches, the best of the best, Tiger Woods. They all have coaches to take them to the next level,
Yeah,
right? So making sure that you have space for your own development.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love that quote. I'm going to be pretty much adding it to my wall. But Karla, thank you again so much for coming on the radio show platform, talking about what you currently do. If you can, one more time, can you tell us where folks can find you at on social media or the website itself?
Yes. So again, the best place is Karla Hill with a K.net. And you can get to me there. And then on the social media platforms of Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, it's Karla Hill with a K.
Great, awesome, awesome. Karla, thank you again so much for being on the show. Really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much. You've been the exemplary host. So thank you for the invitation and congratulations on the work that you do and the next steps that you're taking. Constant growth. So I'm proud of you.
Thanks so much, Karla. Thank you for tuning in to the RNG Radio Show. Be sure to like and subscribe for more episodes and future content. If you'd like to learn more, visit us at danielumstead.com. Stay blessed, my fellow millionaires.